Okay, good. And like Santiago says, he says, I get that question all the time, okay? What we do is we basically play on the same level that banks have to play for their security, okay? There are other things even called PCI compliance, which deals with credit cards and secure transactions and, you know, all these different kind of things. But we take security very serious. I would literally say that 75% of the entire Adilas application validation, okay, literally it's that tight. And just to give you an idea, Shannon, give me a random letter. I'm going to go open up a physical page and show you just some of the security that is dealing with just that page alone, and then the small little piece that actually adds it. Like, I don't even worry about the code. I'm just going to try to show you. Let me show you how many times I'm checking. Give me a random number between anything from A to Z. Okay.
Random letter, right?
Yeah,
C.
yeah, a number from A to Z. Yeah. Okay, and you said C. Okay, watch this. We'll click here, and we'll go File Open, and I might have to just drill down into some code real quick, and I'm just going to say, go show me all the files, and I'm going to start with the C's. Okay? Calculate payroll. Do you want to see how much validation is done on the Calculate Payroll page? Okay, so here's the top. These are all our notes when we started it, when we were modifying it. Here's some other notes to me. Here's some pieces that are coming in. Check for this. Check for this. Validate, 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 validate. Like, look at all these words, validate, validate, validate. Pull this out of the session. What do we have? What do we have? Here's this going. Boom, check this, check this, check this, check this. You know, like, these are checking our permissions right here, okay? Hey, right here, does the guy have number 21, permission number 21? If he does, great. If not, abort, abort, abort. Like, every single piece of these pieces of code here, like, look how long this page is right here. Yeah. Okay, look at all these if statements that it's actually going in and calculating and doing and running, and like, you don't have to even worry about this, but we spend serious time on validation, okay? Start working on the commissions. First, start checking for vehicles. This needs to check one if they do this and this and this. Like, we're checking to see what's happening, okay? If so, let's set some variables. If not, let's loop over this. Like, there's tons and tons of different things. That happened to be the first one in the C column, okay? Like, you literally could do any other one. Watch this. We'll just for fun, I'll just show you one other one. We'll just go one more, and we'll go C again, and we'll find out what the second one is. The calendar overlay search. Okay, this one is probably currently under construction right now, but I'll show you even where it's at, okay? First off, you put it in, and immediately it's kind of like, ta-ding, 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 what have we got? And this one's currently saying, hey, I'm under construction. So there's really not much going on there. But like, every single page that we do actually has a piece of the puzzle, if you will, as far as which help file do I connect to, which permissions do I check. Every single page checks permissions. And so we do it over and over again. Anyway, that was kind of a little bit of a long, drawn-out thing, but if you want the real detail, go to that piece of the steps for success, okay? Okay, we have just a couple more. I know it kind of feels like, oh my goodness, we've been on this forever. We are talking about pros and cons, limitations, and how to break the web in the cloud, okay? So that's kind of what we're looking at. Shannon, can I turn it back to you and kind of talk about skill set stuff?
Yes.
Did somebody need some help there?
Just add it.
Okay.
I didn't know if you needed keys.
Okay.
Yes, definitely back on the web and cloud. So there is obviously a certain skill set that you would have to have, but a lot of them, it seems, are fairly intuitive. I think that's why people really enjoy them as well, because they tend to make a lot of sense. Also, we are on limitations, correct? Yes.
Yes,
okay,
yes.
So
these are limitations.
Interoperability was basically how well does it play with outside services or outside even software packages or your computer, or does it have the ability to relate to various things is a potential limitation of cloud
correct.
software.
So you still almost have virtual little pieces of software,
right.
but they're just no longer on your machine. You just access them through the browser. Okay.
Exactly. So the potential that they don't work well together, don't play well together, right?
Correct. So what we do on this to actually overcome this is we do a thing called systems thinking. And Shannon, can you lightly kind of even say, not that it's necessarily perfect, it doesn't solve every problem right here. What is systems thinking?
Systems thinking would essentially be working within a system. And so really being able to see processes throughout the entire system, or when it is a whole system, recognizing the effects various things have on everything else, and realizing that there are many ways to get to it, or there are many ways to use the system or make it work dynamically. But yeah, like you put cause and effect, consequences, and many ways to the rabbit hole that you're talking about. But being able to connect and having things affect each other interrelationally.
Okay, and your word is better than mine, but I just put relationships.
Oh, that's great. That's great.
Okay, good. So we don't necessarily we try to make it so instead of having like multiple different pieces of software to run the whole thing, I think the best little example of this is the little flyer logo, if you will. I'm just going to really quick jump into that little logo just so you can kind of see it. In a nutshell, this is kind of a smaller version, but here's the map of Adilas. I'm just going to get a bigger marker so you can kind of see where we're at. The map of Adilas is bigger right here, but then what we did is we said, here's your sales and inventory tracking. Here's your customer relationship. Here's your online expense tracking. Here's your business intelligence. Here's your create special relationships. Here's your back-end office and accounting. Here's your payroll and time cards. And guess what you get? We try to do what's called system thinking, and try to kind of put it into play so that it actually can play along those lines. So that's kind of some of the different pieces of the puzzle that we like to use. Awesome. Let's go to the next little piece of the puzzle right here. Okay, so these are limitations of cloud or web. Okay, and this is actually right here. This ends up kind of feeding into these next little pieces. Okay, and like the web and the cloud, it's all new and it's cool and it's fancy. Adilas has been playing in here since 2001. Okay, and so what we're seeing is we're actually seeing the development of some of these new pieces that are coming. Like if you just start something and you're just barely into the rabbit hole, you feel like it's as big can be. And you're like, oh my goodness, I can grow and grow, mix and blend and do all this kind of stuff. We've already been playing in this rabbit hole for 12 years, okay? And that's not really that far after even just the main boom of when some of the dot-coms even came into life. They came in the mid-90s is when the internet took off, okay? In 2001 is when we started this project in Adilas as a cloud-based custom write-up. It was virtually a software system in the cloud for one specific company. And then as we grew, we're like, oh my goodness, we can help this person and this person and this person. The whole thing never actually had the physical goal of like, wow, look where we could potentially go. It was just one solving a need, finding a need, and figuring it out. Exploring a rabbit hole, seeing where they're going, coming back in, like exploring all these different rabbit holes. And so we played in this thing forever. I will say this right now, this right here is a limitation that you will see growing more and more and more and more because guess what? We are not clones, okay? Even businesses are not clones. Yesterday we were talking about bowling pro shops or special design shops where somebody was doing, like sewing projects and stuff like this. Can you name one that would potentially be the same? Even if it has the same name, what's the clientele? Who are they servicing? What's their volume? Like, there are no cookie cutters. And so this little thing right here is actually one of the limitations we're seeing in cloud that is becoming huge, huge, huge. It actually pushes you to these next level, and you'll notice that the word custom is a limitation of cloud. custom, like this, guess what happens? What we're seeing, and we're just kind of projecting it, if you will, but like what we're seeing from playing in here for 12 plus years is more and more people, once they get it, they want more. They want it quicker. They want it faster. They want it custom to their level. They want to pick a flavor. So I'm going to just real quick jump into this little graphic right here. You have the Adilas engine. It's kind of normal, just a little small icon, at least in this graphic. How do you want to skin it? What do you want to do with it, okay? Are you trying to fly? Are you trying to haul stuff, like a bunch of data? You just trying to be cool? Like, do you have a family? Like, what are your needs? Every single thing is going to end up being custom. Even to the world-building level, okay? This is a small little picture of a galaxy. You have suns and stars and small ones and medium ones and orange ones and green ones, and like imagine like Saturn has rings and this one has huge craters, and like there's kind of interesting types and flavors. And so what you're going to find is the further you get, the more people are going to want custom. There's a lady, her name is Kelly Wyman, and she put it to me this way. It was almost kind of like talking almost like an addiction. She's like, when people get data, they crave it. They want more. And that's kind of a somewhat of a paraphrase, but like what she said is when they get data and what it does, they want more, and they want it faster and more custom, and like we didn't even know this, but it's actually kind of creating somewhat of an addiction to data and like how do we play in these type of worlds. So as far as the tools, this little piece right here is huge what can break a web application, okay? Especially if it only goes to a certain level. It's like, oh, you know what, I'd love to use that, but I need this, or I want this, okay? Kind of gets into that almost consumer, what do you want level. Excuse me. So right here, I'm just going to put you dream it up, we'll wire it up. Okay? Now it's not technically totally all the way to that level, but it's getting there. That's where we're seeing, that's why we're saying, oh my goodness, web and cloud is not the end. It's not even close to the end. There's still other pieces of the puzzle that are still kind of coming down the pipeline. Okay? Awesome. Shannon, do you have any comments on custom needs?
Like you said, that is the future. That's where it's going. That's what people want, right? When it works for them, then it really matters.
In their way.
In their world.
Yep, in their world. Okay, cool. Awesome. Let's just do one more, and then we will kind of switch gears and go from there. Okay, so one of the last things as far as limitations or breaking a cloud, we wanted to talk about technologies. Okay? Now, just last night I was helping a lady set up her Windows 8 machine. Okay? I'm currently on Windows XP. Shannon's on Windows 7. You know, like, so do these become an issue? It does potentially. There's different ways things flow. Tools that are standard for me are no longer standard for you. Tools that are standard for them are no longer standard. In Windows XP, almost everything is vertical scroll. If you look at Windows 8, guess what it is? Everything is squares, and it's horizontal scroll. Okay? It's horizontal scroll versus vertical scroll. Normally, we all had mouses that had like a little IntelliScroll thing, and it did that way. Okay? But once you get into tablets, guess what people like to do? Swipe next page, swipe next page, swipe next page, etc. So it's kind of interesting. Alrighty, did I get kicked off?
No, I think you're still on.
Okay. No problem.
You're
Cool. Okay, cool. So Shannon, we've kind of gone through a bunch of different things this morning, and there's some other people who are here and available, and we need to kind of start transitioning into our daily, what are we going to be covering today, okay? So as a small recap, okay, I'm just going to kind of get my marker right here. Day one, we covered inventory coming in through POs, inventory management stuff, okay? We then sold it out of our general inventory pool, maybe tied it to customers, maybe some quick counter sales, lots of this type of stuff. What's our products? What's coming in? Like this whole bottom line. Yesterday, we covered a bunch of things, and I'd like to actually have you come up and kind of lightly just kind of go through a light demo of what we did, just to kind of get the things flowing. What we ended up covering was customers, elements of time, e-commerce, FlexGrid, tons of different little pieces that are kind of somewhat related to customers. And customers was kind of our focus yesterday in some way or another. What are we selling to them? What are we doing? Today, our focus is going to be on banks and deposits and financials and balance sheets and basically some of your back-end type work, okay? Shannon, I will let you take over if you're okay, and we'll just kind of keep flip-flopping so that I can actually have a light break, if you will. I'm just going to switch corporations and let you choose. Why don't you choose where you wanted to be at, and we'll go from there.
Okay. So we'll just do a quick, maybe little demo of a few of the things we did yesterday with customers. So we will go back to the seamstress shop. We had put in some stuff with the seamstress shop, and basically what we had determined when we got into the seamstress shop was that for what we wanted to accomplish as a seamstress, we needed to add our customers, and we needed to add some FlexGrid, and we wanted to use elements of time to track our sewing projects and to track classes that we were having, and then to bill people for that. So we kind of used a combination of customers, FlexGrid, and elements of time. So maybe we'll go back into it and we'll just add a new customer just so we can go through that really quick. So we can go right here to the customer homepage. We could go to quick search customer new, but we'll check on this. And let's say we're going to get a new project for a friend of mine, and my sister's. She sings. She's a really, really good singer. So let's say she needs an evening gown for a lot of the functions she does. She sings at some pretty nice places. And we'll say she lives in Logan. We're here in Logan. Okay, and I could put in her phone number because we discussed yesterday you can search by phone number. And we're going to put that she's female. For us, that's important because we are seamstressing. So, all right, so she's in. Now, something we created is that right now, while I have her, if she came into my store or my home and we're going to do a seamstress project for her, I'm going to add new FlexGrid right now because I know that yesterday we set up these special fields so that I could get her measurements. So this is already set up in FlexGrid. We can show you what this looks like right here. So our FlexGrid tie-in homepage, I'm just going to go to Manage My Custom Fields just so you can see. So right here in the customer, we wanted their hip, their waist, their chest or bust measurement, inseam, shoulders, all these different measurements we wanted. So we'll go back here, and we are going to go back to our customer. Let's go back to Abrianne so we can add this. We're going to go to the log, and we're going to add our new FlexGrid time. So we're going to come here, and we're just going to pop in some measurements. Obviously, I don't sew enough. I don't know measurements very well.
So Shannon, you have a max of 15 custom fields that we give you.
Correct.
Okay.
Correct.
And they are not required at all. But for your particular thing, you're like, oh my goodness, I need some data that Adilas does not track. Can I
Correct.
potentially do it? So, okay.
Definitely. And here maybe I could put floor length, negative floor, and I don't know, that would be 60. Or something. So then we just add that tie-in, and then we have all of her custom measurements, which is going to be important for us. And I could add a new log entry here, and we'll just put that this was in person. Brianne came in and needs an evening gown for some of her shows. That would be a good way to express that. For some of her shows. Great. So we set that up. I can go back in and I can log anything. You can make log note after log note after log note. And that's already contained there with customers, so that's great. That's already built in. We just needed this custom piece that we wanted to track specific data, so we added FlexGrid right here. So now we've got Avery Ann, we've got her FlexGrid added in, we've got various items. So we could go start a new sewing project for her if we wanted. So we could even go to our time homepage, we could go to, let's just go time home. We'll look at what we did yesterday. So we want to create a new element of time for Avery Ann. And right here, we had already set up sewing classes and sewing projects. So we're going to just put this under sewing project. And right here, we're going to put Avery Ann's evening gown. Okay, we started it today. We could put these various things in, and that would roll it over. But maybe for right now, since we're just tracking time, we're going to leave that. So, oh, I could change that right there to needs to be invoiced.
Yeah. Sometimes you might even just like leave it right now until you're actually ready to kind of push it to the next level. I would go ahead and search for her as a person. And
we said that there were a lot of subs we could do, so we left it as subs. Okay, great. So we'll start this element of time.
So real quick, just for fun, and you're going to assign it to her.
Right.
But what I wanted to kind of do is kind of be like this. She exists as a customer, so she's one group in a customer, okay?
Right.
We added some FlexGrid to her. That's not a problem.
Mm-hmm.
We're now creating a whole new container because we're going to be starting to track a job,
right.
A small job, okay?
Perfect. Assigned to her. So all of these will be assigned to her. So she's there. We have this new container started. It's our time ID right here. It's number 4. It's tied to Avery Ann. We're going to start a sewing project, and right here it says sewing project. It's Avery Ann's evening gown. So if I started today, I could add a new sub date and time. So I'm working. We auto rolled that in just because anything we're working on sewing projects, we just call it working. Doesn't matter. We'll put notes down here. But let's say that we started with her at 9:30 this morning, and we worked until 12:30 today. So we got a few hours in. We laid out the pattern and began cutting. So we'll add that sub dating time. So that starts tracking these sub dates and these sub times in here. I could add another one. Maybe I came back later this afternoon, and you could put it in various ways. Let's say I did 2 hours, and I
Why don't you modify the start time as well, just so it kind of adds 2 hours plus from where we started. Say you started at 1 o'clock.
Okay. I'm back at 1 p.m. after a lunch break, and I finished cutting out the pattern and began sewing the lining to the pieces. No, all right, I cut out the lining. Just cutting out the pattern and cut out the lining. Great, so we added this update in the time. So this is starting to track. We've had 3 hours, we have 2 hours, so right now total we have 5 hours, and this tracks it as a decimal as well, which we could roll it into the cart. Which just to show you what we did yesterday, we don't have to finish this, but we could add that time to the cart, and right here it pulls in my main ID and then my sub pieces. So I've already added 2 sub pieces, which add up to 5 hours. So I could go back in and I could change my total amount for my 5 hours, and it could roll that right into the cart, into the map for me. Or I could just add a line item and say, done 5 hours, I'm billing her thus far. So that's kind of some of the things we did yesterday with customers, and including FlexGrid, and elements of time, using elements of time to bill for time. So if we wanted, do you want me to add someone to a class? Or
why don't you go ahead and just actually bill her out for this, pretend like this project is done.
Okay, so right here what I would do, since I didn't have a total, I'm just going to add a line item. I'm going to say labor, and I had 5 hours in there at, let's say we go 18 an hour. Add that to the cart. So that looks perfect. I have $90 on labor, so it's not taxable, and I'm just going to check out right now. And she's going to give me a cash deposit. So we'll create that invoice.
Great. Why don't you go back to the element of time and actually show that it is, either way, like you can print things showing and hiding elements of time if you want, or you can actually physically, that element of time is now physically tied to invoice number 11. Okay.
Perfect. And so this is what it shows up. It didn't bring my subs. But I can even click on this link right here. And I can go back. It shows me my subs right here. Oh, I spent, that's where the 5 hours came from. 3 hours laying out the pattern and cutting, and 2 finishing and cutting the lining. So it's tied right there to invoice 11. You can see that tie. I could go to Avery Ann's log. I could get to things from there. So this shows me just where things are at with her. It shows me that she's connected to an element of time, number 4. So all around, it's tracking all together, and from any of the pieces, it kind of shows you some of the other pieces. Right from here, I can see, oh, I already invoiced Avery Ann, so I can go to invoice 11 and say, oh, okay, she already paid for the cutout process, or various things. So lots of different options.
Awesome. Great job, Shannon.